Valerie Harper's oldest son is dating an older woman.
If you see her again, I'll kill you in your sleep.
It's a special comedy sneak preview.
Don't play with that maple syrup. I'm not, Mom.
Valerie.
Remember when the 80s gave us sitcoms so weird and wonderful that they make your old TV guide look like a Stephen King novel? Well, today we're covering 6 more 80s sitcoms that time forgot, and if you missed parts 1 and 2 where we covered Charles in Charge's magical family disappearing act and Jim Carrey's pre-Ace Ventura animation gig, check out the links in the description below, because apparently we had even more forgotten shows than we thought, which says something about a decade that thought 3-hour music videos and shoulder pads, the size of small aircraft by the way, were both totally reasonable. Now, before we get started, be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and it's way easier than trying to catch your favorite song on Casey Kasem's countdown with perfect timing to hit record on your boombox. Anyway, stick around for number 1. It survived something no other sitcom has attempted without immediately getting cancelled. These are the shows that time forgot, but we didn't, and we're starting with number 6, Bosom Buddies, ABC. Before Tom Hanks was making you ugly cry in Philadelphia, and before he became America's dad in every feel-good movie ever made, I mean, seriously, the man collects Oscar nominations like some people collect stamps, he was running around Manhattan in a wig and heels, chasing cheap rent like it was the last DeLorean on the lot. Welcome to Bosom Buddies, the sitcom that asked, what if some like it hot, but make it a housing crisis and add more shoulder pads? Here's the setup that somehow made sense in 1980. 2 struggling ad guys, Kip Wilson and Henry Desmond, wake up to find their apartment building being demolished faster than Pac-Man fever. Their only affordable option was the Susan B. Anthony Inn, a women-only residence that's basically a sorority house for working girls in Manhattan. So what do these desperate dudes do? They throw on wigs, stuff some bras, and become Buffy and Hildegard, names that sound like rejected Muppet characters but somehow worked on 80s television. Because apparently nothing says I'm a serious thespian like learning to walk in heels for a rent-controlled apartment, which, let's be honest, in Manhattan probably seemed like the most logical solution available, right after selling a kidney, of course. Tom Hanks played Kip, the skeptical one who gets sold on the scheme after spotting gorgeous resident Sonny Lumet, because even fake women have priorities.
Of course, we'd be fools not to look at the silly place.
And Mama didn't raise no foolish daughters.
Now, here's where it gets weird. Season 2 basically looked at its own premise and said, this cross-dressing thing is getting old faster than parachute pants at a disco. The boys got caught, but the building manager required them to keep up the charade anyway, because apparently even when your secret's out, bureaucracy still demands paperwork in order. The cross-dressing became less central to the plots, but it didn't disappear entirely, which, in retrospect, the show shifted into more of a buddy comedy about starting their own ad agency while living in a hotel full of career women.
Sonny. Don't talk to me. Don't ever talk to me, Kip. I trusted you.
Ratings never exploded like Dynasty shoulder pads, and ABC canceled it after 2 seasons. But it launched not 1 but 2 major careers. Tom Hanks became, well, Tom Hanks, and Holland Taylor became a prominent character actress with a long, successful career across TV and film. Bosom Buddies was television that trusted 2 unknown actors to carry a ridiculous premise with heart and humor. Revolutionary concept, we know. Sometimes the most unlikely beginnings create the most unforgettable stars, proving that great chemistry can make even the weirdest ideas feel like home, or at least like a really good sitcom you'd want to watch on a sick day. Number 5, Black's Magic, NBC. What happens when you cross Columbo with David Copperfield when David Copperfield was making the Statue of Liberty disappear and throwing enough jazz hands to power a Vegas show? Well, you get Black's Magic, the show that said murder mysteries are great, but what if we add abracadabra and a guy who probably fought in Korea but definitely knows how to make evidence disappear?
I bid you all a fond and final farewell.
This NBC oddity lasted exactly 13 episodes in 1986. How Linden, fresh off playing the world's most patient police captain in Barney Miller, traded his precinct desk for a top hat and became Alexander Blacke, a world-class magician who couldn't resist solving crimes that seemed too impossible to explain, because apparently making rabbits disappear wasn't enough excitement for one career. Think Murder, She Wrote, but instead of Jessica Fletcher writing mysteries, you get a guy who makes elephants vanish for a living and apparently has way too much free time between gigs at the Magic Castle. His partner in crime fighting was his own father, Leonard, played by Harry Morgan, yes, Colonel Potter from MASH. But here's the twist that probably made writers feel very clever. Leonard wasn't some noble law and order type. He was a lovable con man who brought street smarts and questionable morals to every investigation. Like if Columbo's dad was a 3-card Monte dealer with a heart of gold, since the writers thought regular procedurals needed more family dysfunction and fewer functioning moral compasses.
Really, Pop, I asked you down here to help, not to fleece my friends.
You just sat there letting me rattle away, which proves you can't trust anybody.
Despite lasting only one season, which is faster than Atari crashed, the show actually pulled decent ratings, finishing 38th with a 15.5 out of 23 share. That made it the highest rated show of the season not to be renewed. Why? Well, because NBC scheduled it against Dynasty, which was basically TV kryptonite in 1986. Going up against Joan Collins throwing champagne and delivering devastating one-liners was like bringing a magic wand to a Dynasty catfight. You're gonna lose, and it's gonna hurt more than your pride.
If the champagne is too burned for your taste, Miss Devereaux, don't drink it. The caviar, I trust, is not burned.
The show even earned some actual respect. An Emmy nomination for cinematography because apparently someone noticed it looked good while being completely bonkers, and an Edgar Allan Poe Award nod for Best TV Episode. Not bad for a series that vanished faster than a rabbit in a hat and with less fanfare than most Vegas floor shows. Now, we here think that Blacke's magic deserved better than a one-season vanishing act, and pun absolutely intended for that. It was television that dared to be different when everything else was playing it safer than a savings bond. Magic mixed with mystery. What more could you want? Number 4, Moonlighting, ABC. Before Bruce Willis was crawling through Nakatomi Plaza barefoot and before Yippee-Ki-Yay became his calling card, he was trading rapid-fire quips with Cybill Shepherd in one of the most stylish, frustrating, and talked-about shows of the 1980s. Moonlighting was TV's first real dramedy, a genre-bending mess of romance, comedy, and meta-gags that kept viewers glued to ABC.
Now you turn around and say make money, we're gonna make money,
This
Greg.
is a ridiculous conversation.
I happen to be a terrific detective.
The setup was simple on paper, anyway. Maddie Hayes, a bankrupt ex-model who looked like she stepped out of a Vogue spread, discovers she owns a failing detective agency right around the time Top Gun was making everyone want to be Maverick pilots or at least date one. She's ready to shut it down faster than you can say Chapter 11 until smooth-talking detective David Addison convinces her to give it a shot, because apparently his charm worked better than most business plans in 1985. They rebrand as Blue Moon Investigations and spend the next 4 years solving crimes while engaging in the most exhausting sexual attention in television history. And let's talk about that dialogue. Dear God, the dialogue.
No. Absolutely not. David, don't do it.
Scripts were 2 to 3 times longer than normal hour-long dramas, and let's be honest, most viewers needed subtitles to keep up with the verbal gymnastics happening on screen. Moonlighting pulled in 16 Emmy nominations in Season 2 alone and peaked at 9th place in the ratings, making it cooler than members-only jackets. The Al Jarreau theme song even hit the charts, making the show one of the hippest properties on television. But then came the fall, and boy, it was more spectacular than a Dynasty cliffhanger. Season 4 brought Cybill Shepherd's real-life pregnancy, which affected production and reduced her screen time, though she wasn't entirely absent, because nothing says creative problem-solving like working around your co-lead's real life and hoping viewers stay invested.
Given that, what do you think? Maybe me and you can go out on a date?
The long-teased will they won't they romance that had kept audiences invested finally went they will in the infamous I Am Curious, Maddie episode. Fans got exactly what they'd been begging for and promptly stopped watching. Turns out the chase really is better than the catch, a lesson every romantic comedy since has learned the hard way. Despite its spectacular flameout, Moonlighting changed television forever in ways we're still feeling today. It proved that audiences would follow complex, fast-talking characters anywhere, even when those characters were too clever for their own good and spoke faster than most people could think. Number 3, it's Garry Shandling Show, Showtime, and Fox. Some sitcoms wink at the audience like they're sharing a secret. Garry Shandling broke down the fourth wall, invited you inside, handed you the remote, asked if you wanted anything from the kitchen, and then spent the next 30 minutes explaining why sitcoms are weird while somehow making it the funniest thing on television. Because apparently honesty was the ultimate comedy weapon in the late 80s.
I'm a grown man. I have my own television show. I can talk to anybody I want to.
The concept was revolutionary for 1986, when most Americans were still figuring out how to program their VCRs without using the manual. Garry Shandling played a fictionalized version of himself, a neurotic comic living in Sherman Oaks who knew he was a TV character and wasn't shy about discussing his fictional status with anyone who'd listen. Storylines dissolved into Shandling talking directly to the audience like they were old friends.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that was great. Okay, now you at home. 1, 2, 3. Well, all right, okay.
Rewriting events mid-scenes because he felt like it, or having his neighbors comment on their own character development, like amateur theater critics who'd accidentally wandered onto a professional set. It was like The Office 20 years early, but with more existential dread and better hair, because let's be honest, Steve Carell never had Garry's perfectly feathered locks. One episode even aired live on election night in 1988 with Soul Train's Don Cornelius dropping by to announce the wrong winner, and that's not a punchline. That actually happened, creating gloriously chaotic television that felt like performance art disguised as a sitcom.
You got it, Garry.
Oh, sold, Don. Sold. I'm telling you.
Most critics hailed it as genius, but outside of TV nerds and comedy historians, its Garry Shandling show isn't widely remembered today. The reason may be because first, it aired mostly on Showtime. Cable in the 80s meant a much smaller audience, and even when Fox reran it, the reach was nothing like NBC or CBS primetime. Secondly, its meta, self-referential humor was way ahead of its time. For audiences that were used to laugh tracks and tidy setups, the constant breaking of the fourth wall and timeline gags felt confusing instead of clever. And thirdly, Shandling's later masterpiece, The Larry Sanders Show, completely overshadowed it. I mean, when you hear people talk about Garry changing the landscape of television, they point to Sanders, not this earlier experiment. However, despite all of that, its Garry Shandling Show was fearless television that treated viewers like co-conspirators rather than passive observers sitting on their couches eating cereal. Though, you were probably doing that too, wondering why your favorite sitcom suddenly got philosophical. Now hey, if you made it this far, you're clearly one of us. Let us know in the comments if you remember any of these shows, or if we just blew your mind with some forgotten TV history that makes you question everything you thought you knew about 80s television. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives into the weird corners of TV history that somehow shaped our childhoods. Now, let's get back to the countdown with number 2, The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, NBC and Lifetime. If most 80s sitcoms were neon bright roller coasters blasting down the boardwalk while Duran Duran provided the soundtrack and everyone's hair defied at least 3 levels of physics, The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd was more like sipping coffee in a quiet cafe while contemplating your entire life and wondering if you should call your ex. Spoiler alert, you really shouldn't, but I know you're going to anyway. This was the anti-sitcom. There was no laugh track telling you when to giggle, no wacky neighbor bursting through doors with perfectly timed punchlines. Instead, you got real life in all its messy, complicated glory, which was either refreshing or depressing, depending on your tolerance for actual human emotions on television. The premise followed Molly Dodd, played by Blair Brown, an intelligent bohemian divorcee floating from job to job and relationship to relationship in New York City circa 1987, while Family Ties was teaching us that money was everything and Growing Pains was making suburban life look effortlessly perfect. Her ex-husband, a jazz musician who still cared for her because apparently some divorces don't require complete emotional scorched earth policies, lingered around the edges of her messy emotional life.
It's a good face.
But what are we doing here?
Looking at the stars, talking.
While other sitcoms showed that women were managing their picture-perfect families, Molly Dodd portrayed someone juggling rent, messy relationships, career uncertainty, and identity crises like a real human being trying to figure out life without a manual, since someone thought viewers might appreciate seeing their own struggles reflected on screen for once. It felt like an indie film that accidentally wandered onto network TV and somehow managed to stick around for 5 seasons without compromising its vision or adding a laugh track. Awards rolled in consistently during its run, recognition for doing something genuinely different. Blair Brown earned Emmy nominations as Outstanding Lead Actress 5 years in a row, one for every season, proving that quality performance gets noticed even when it's not wrapped in big hair and shoulder pads.
Mom, I saw it.
No, you didn't.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was him. You know, it was 7 in the morning. He was toddling down Broadway in his parka.
She won a Cable Ace Award in 1991, and creator Jay Tarses received multiple nominations, cementing the show's reputation as prestige television before that term existed and before prestige meant aggressively depressing but well acted. Here's what made it revolutionary. Molly Dodd ditched the laugh track entirely, one of the earliest sitcoms to trust viewers to find humor without the audio cues. I mean, who would have guessed that audiences were smarter than network executives thought? The days and nights of Molly Dodd proved that television could be intimate, thoughtful, and still entertaining without resorting to wacky neighbors, catchphrases, or situations that would never happen to real people, though honestly most of us could use a little less reality and a few more laugh tracks in our actual lives. It gave us a woman who was allowed to be complicated, flawed, searching, and intelligent, qualities that seemed revolutionary then but feel essential now. Number 1, the Hogan family, NBC and CBS.
The more you learn, the less you know, in the heart of every family.
Sitcoms teach us that families are messy, but the Hogan family proved it both on screen and behind the cameras in ways that would make a soap opera writer blush and probably take notes for future storylines. Originally launched as Valerie in 1986, this seemed like your typical mid-80s family sitcom. Working mom Valerie Harper juggling her job and 3 teenagers while dispensing wisdom with the patience of a saint. After 2 seasons during the height of 80s family sitcom fever, when every network was desperately trying to find the next Cosby Show,
I know that David's mature, with his father away so much. I mean, David has to take on a lot of adult responsibilities. That's enough cookies.
Harper had a high-profile contract dispute over future profits and creative control that would make modern Hollywood agents weep with admiration. Instead of negotiating like reasonable adults in expensive suits who understand the entertainment business, NBC pulled the nuclear option that still makes industry insiders gasp. They fired her. And not just quietly phase her out over several episodes like a normal show fired. No, they literally killed off her character between seasons because subtlety died somewhere around the same time MTV stopped playing music videos. By season 3, the show returned as Valerie's family, the Hogans, because nothing says seamless transition like putting your dead character's name in the title. It eventually became simply the Hogan family, dropping the dead character's name entirely like she'd never existed, since even keeping Valerie in the title was too painful a reminder of the nuclear option NBC had deployed. The show proved that sometimes you can literally erase your star and keep going through sheer stubborn determination, quality writing, and Sandy Duncan's inexplicable ability to make anything feel like a musical number waiting to happen. Now, despite all the upheaval that would make most shows collapse faster than a house of cards in a windstorm, the sitcom survived 6 full seasons, even switching networks from NBC to CBS for its final run because even network executives couldn't kill this thing with conventional weapons, though they certainly tried their best. Many sets from the Hogan family were recycled into other sitcoms like Step by Step and Family Matters, proving that even the furniture had more staying power than the original star. The Hogan family became proof of television's ability to reinvent itself when everything goes catastrophically wrong and normal situations are no longer available.
Yeah, they're probably on their way here right now. By this time tomorrow, I'll be laughing about this. And still tasting that chili.
It showed us that sometimes the most dramatic changes happen behind the scenes, but what matters is the warmth and chemistry that keeps families together, both real and fictional. In the end, it wasn't about the star who left, it was about the love, genuine connection, and stubborn determination that remained between the characters who stayed. Sometimes survival is the greatest victory of all. And there you have it, 6 more mind-blowing sitcoms from the 80s that time forgot, proving that the decade was even more weird and more experimental than your acid-washed gene memory suggested. How many did you remember without cheating and consulting the Google machine? If you got all 6, drop a TV emoji in the comment section below, because you've officially earned your 80s TV expert badge and probably qualify for some kind of retro television scholarship. Then tell us which forgotten show you think deserves a comeback, streaming resurrection, or at least a decent box set release. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now because we're just getting started with our deep dive into TV history's weirdest corners. And until next time, just remember, this is Remember When.